Sometimes you end up with unwanted spaces at the beginning or at the end of a string. This is very common when taking input from a user, as most people just don't think about spaces, and they have no idea that they can be problematic, especially when entering an email address or some other data that will be used entirely in the computing domain. Spaces at the beginning or at the end of the string can be problematic. You'll notice that we have up on the screen here the MySQL command line interface. The reason for this is that SID, how we've been demonstrating all of the rest of our lessons, is a web-based interface, and web-based interfaces, web browsers in particular, tend to eliminate spaces when displaying things. And we want to be able to see the spaces clearly. So we're using a command line interface just for that purpose, so that we can demonstrate the spaces and you can actually see the spaces on the screen as they get magically eliminated by the trim function. So let's go ahead and type a query. Now you notice at the end of the query I have typed the semicolon. This is one of those rare instances where the semicolon is actually required. The MySQL command line interface requires the semicolon so that it knows where the end of a query is. Well, it'll accept it. It won't actually run the query until you type the semicolon. So I've typed it at the end of the line here. And I'm going to go ahead and press enter. And there's our query. Now you see there's 4 spaces to the left and to the right of the string. Now we're going to go ahead and put in the trim function and watch those spaces magically disappear. I'm going to type the up arrow to get the last query so that I can edit it. And I'm using the left arrow to go to the beginning of the literal string. I'm going to type trim in the open parentheses. I'm going to go to the just after the quote and type a close parentheses. And now I'll just press enter. And you see that the spaces are now gone. So this is what the trim function does. It's very, very useful for any kind of input from a user that will require that there not be spaces at the beginning and the end. And it's going to be used entirely in the computing domain. You just run the trim function on it, and the spaces are gone.